Gary DePaul with Unlabel Leadership. Welcome to episode 20, Vivian Johnson establishes executive presence. Stay with me throughout this episode because you are going to hear some of the most amazing stories since I began the podcast. With that, let's get started. Vivian Johnson is a performance consultant, change strategist, and even a certified project manager, what they call a PMP. She's also a transformation expert. Besides all that, she's just a good person. You should get to know her, but in a way you will, because she's going to share some incredible stories that she doesn't share with people in general. Part 1, the story of the failed audition. Anyone new to corporate America won't go in, understand the politics, the nuances, the culture, and all the dark stuff that you can find in a company. Whenever you bring people together, either good stuff happens, bad stuff, or a mix of the two. But we're young. When we go in, young as in new, without experience, and unusual things can happen. Vivian shares some stories that are powerful and well worth listening to. Here's Vivian.
There was a TV series that first aired around 2002 called The It Factor. And the show was centered around a group of actors who were struggling to, quote, make it in the entertainment business. And when I think about executive presence, I think about someone who has that it factor, right? They have it. Now, we don't know exactly how to describe it or define what it is, but one thing for sure, we know they have it. And so when I was looking for a definition around what the it factor kind of means, I found something that I really tend to agree with. It described a person as someone who exhibits magnetism that makes others naturally gravitate toward them. One part of the description, there was this idea that either you have it or you don't. And it implies that you are something else or something special that sets you apart from others. And that special something is the part that I believe we have in each of us. It's that part of us that can be nurtured and encouraged to be shared with others if we have the courage to allow others to experience our own unique it factor. And sharing our it factor can be very humbling because it's not coming from a need to impress others, but it comes from a place where we expose that part of us that helps others feel special. That is the part that makes us unique, influential, and yes, even magnetic to others where they are naturally drawn to us.
I like how you even use the word courage associated with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the spirit of this TV series, The It Factor, I've titled my story, The Failed Audition. There's two parts of the story. The first part is I sort of flash back to a set of events that led to this failed audition. The flashback starts in 1995 during a very pivotal time in America's history when the federal government introduced affirmative action. I was seeking my first job fresh out of engineering school. And for those who aren't familiar with the term affirmative action, it originally started as a mandated requirement to increase the number of minorities and resolve discrimination within businesses. And so if you were a government contracted business, it was federally regulated to the point a business could face hefty fines if they did not adhere to this requirement. Now, at that time, I was too young to understand what this really was about, but I quickly felt the impact as I received several job offers, not because I graduated with honors or had experienced internships or anything like that, but because I satisfied two minority requirements. I was brown and I was a female. So I was a hot commodity because a company could count me twice in their affirmative action numbers.
So there's a numbers game from the perspective of the companies during this time period.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was federally regulated. And so they actually would count the number of minorities, and a female would count for one and a minority would count for one, but I counted twice. And so it turned out, fresh out of engineering school, I'm getting all these offers. And mind you, in some instances, I had never even been interviewed. And so, and one of those companies was Saturn out of the corporate office out of Tennessee. I actually turned down this position. It was a leadership rotation program, and Ross Perot was the head of the company at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I remember asking the recruiter to let me speak with other rotation hirees just to kind of get a sense for the organization. Basically, Gary, they told me to run and run fast.
Wow.
So I ended up accepting a position with Allied Signal Communications, which was a government contract organization who produced secret devices for the military. And I took this position because I was really impressed with the team who interviewed me. But unfortunately, the team that interviewed me was not the team I would ultimately report to. Asked not to reveal names, I ended up being assigned to a manager, let's call him Jack.
Okay.
Who didn't want me there. But this affirmative action required that they had to stick me somewhere. So now, again, I was young and naive, and I really didn't understand what was going on. I didn't even know Jack didn't want me there. I just knew I had a position with a great company. I was going to show them how great I was, and by doing a great job. But unfortunately, that attempt was met with much opposition, as nothing I seemed to do was right. And I was really struggling on this team. But by the grace of God, there was this man who was hired about 6 months after me. He was full of integrity. Let's call him Chris.
Okay.
So Chris was assigned to, quote, manage me, as Jack no longer wanted to have anything to do with me. And so we developed this amazing working relationship. And things really started to look up for me until one day, Chris pulls me out into the hallway from the surface mount technology area that I was assigned to support. And he says, we need to talk. We need to talk now.
Well, that sounds intimidating.
Yes. And so that was about 26 years ago. But I remember the look on his face like it was yesterday. And I knew he was serious. So we get out into the hallway and he starts pacing back and forth. And you could visibly see the rage. He was so enraged. And he kept repeating over and over again, I can't believe Jack just told me. I can't believe what Jack just told me. He just kept saying that over and over again. And so he finally started to calm down just a little. And he starts the conversation by saying, I really like you. I think you're smart, but you need to know that the only reason you're here is because you're Black. And our manager, Jack, said he's trying everything he can to get rid of you. So then, with extreme urgency in his voice, he said, you really need to move off this team now.
You don't know what's going on. You're taken into the hallway. He's angry, enraged. You're not sure if it's at you or someone else. And then you hear this message that you're only there because you're Black and you need to get off the team as quickly as you can. That is, I would be stunned. I would just shocked.
Yes. Let me just put this in perspective. This was close to the end of the year, the timing of this. So the company had already submitted their affirmative action numbers. So I was not necessarily needed anymore. But at the time, I really didn't know or even understand any of this, but Chris did. So I left Chris and I immediately went to speak to the manufacturing leader in the surface mount technology area. And I shared with him what had just happened. And in the middle of our conversation, he makes a phone call and he says, "Do you want to work for me?" I said, "Yes." And then he said, "Your talents are better suited here anyway as a process engineer. Isn't that what you went to school for?" And I said, "Yes." And in a matter of days, I was pulled off of Jack's team. And now as a process engineer reporting to one of the best leaders I've ever worked for. However, I would still meet opposition with the other process engineers. And there was this one process engineer in particular, his name was Pete, and he saw me struggling to get support. And one day he said, "I hate to say this to you, but if you had blonde hair and blue eyes, you could probably get more help around here." So that was the day a seed had been planted in my mind. Now, I am a pretty determined person who loves a challenge. So I thought, I just need to work harder to change people's perspective. But subconsciously, I thought that I would never be enough as a female of color. So the seed planted in me that day was, no one wants to hear what I have to say.
That is such a harsh message. In a sense, when people do that, there's disbelief in who you are and what you have to offer just because of your appearance, your gender. That is, I mean, how did you handle that?
Well, there's more. Well, no matter how much I adopted the corporate doctrine that says how I should look or present myself to executive leaders, there was this set of external characteristics necessary for success that I just didn't have. I didn't have it. I just resolved that I didn't have the value. I didn't have value, which was so counterintuitive to what I believe, to what gets me up every day and do what I do. I want to bring value and I want to make a difference wherever I go. And so I would come up with this idea and give it to the white males on my team for them to share with the powers that be in the organization, because I thought they'll listen to them, but not me. And so this was very damaging to my confidence. And over time, it would greatly affect how I showed up. As a matter of fact, for a number of years, I avoided speaking like the plague. But eventually I got over this and I adopted this quote, "fake it till you make it" philosophy. You heard of that, right?
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. And it doesn't work. It gets you in the door, but it doesn't sustain you. So let's fast forward to my days where we met and talk about the failed audition.
Okay.
In my quest to quote, make it in the corporate world, I struggled because there was a certain title that equated to success. Now, today, my priorities and my beliefs are totally different, and my experiences have empowered me to walk in the freedom and power of influence. But unfortunately, I was still using a rule book that had been indoctrinated into my belief system of what corporate success looks like. It was centered around positions and titles. I had set a goal for myself and I sought to be a director. I decided I'm going to create me this personal development plan and I'm going to present it to my manager, who was the vice president of learning at the time. So let's call him Mike. So Mike was actually very impressed with the plan that I had put together. But in his response, he said to me, as a director, you will have to present yourself to executives. And I thought, I'm already doing that in my current role. What are you talking about? I didn't say that to him. So then he went on to say this. He said, "You don't have executive presence." Now, this is coming from a man that sits crisscross applesauce in meetings with executives, okay?
Yeah.
But those words, "you don't have executive presence," would ring over and over in my head. And each time I replayed them, I felt like a knife was stabbing in my chest. And so I left that meeting stunned. I was angry, to be quite honest. But as I walked back to my desk, my mind immediately went back to this. Well, if you had blonde hair and blue eyes, you might get promoted to director. And ironically, at the time, they had just hired a lady who fit that description as the director on my team. And eventually, Mike actually moved me to report directly to her. But I think Mike felt sorry for me that day. And he wanted me to truly prove him wrong. So he set up this audition where he would attend a meeting with me and an executive in IT. But by now, my confidence was totally destroyed. I could not pull it together to save my life. I was so angry at him for saying that I didn't have executive presence. And more importantly, I had internalized it so much by replaying it over and over in my mind that I believed it too. I was ashamed, and I went into that meeting with the idea that these two white men don't want to hear anything this brown girl has to say. And so I couldn't, quote, show up or be fully present at that meeting, nor could I prove him wrong. So needless to say, I failed that audition miserably. When I think back to movies like Rocky, I love Rocky movies. If you think about the one where he fought Mr. T the very first time, and he was so scared to ever get back into the ring again for a long time. It wasn't until I could replay that event in my mind with a better understanding of what executive presence is that led me to receive and accept the truth about what this manager had said. It was true not because of my appearance, but because I didn't show up in my authenticity and confidence, nor did I engage this leader in a way that would influence him to take action. And had come to the understanding that executive presence has the power to disrupt the atmosphere when it's with its authenticity and courage. And it carries a strength that we respect no matter what package it's presented in.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Part 2, grace, humility, and the 4 Ps. When guests come on the show, they share stories about leadership, but they do so without using jargon, or minimal amount of jargon at least. And on Wednesdays, we try to do something a little bit different, and that is break down terminology. Vivian's about to do that with executive presence. What is it? What isn't it? What should we think about when we're thinking about executive presence? Here's Vivian.
Let's talk about executive presence. And let's focus on the word presence, because I believe you don't have to have the title of an executive to have presence. Presence carries an energy that you can feel vibrating from the one who possesses it. As humans, we're all connected in some profound way. We feel each other's emotions. I can feel when someone is sad, angry, or even frightened. I can feel when they are confident, happy, and passionate about what they're saying. And that emotional energy connects us and creates a feedback loop in our own emotions and in our own thoughts. Someone with executive presence can invoke an emotion that can inspire you and cause you to pay close attention, because it's almost magnetic in that it draws you in and invites you to take a closer look. And I believe we all have that inner presence that we can access if we tap into the source that gives it life. Your inner presence can be accessed through what I call the 4 Ps.
Okay.
Your present, your passion, your perspective, and your purpose. So think of your 4 Ps as your source for revealing your it factor, or that special thing in you that only you can give to others. And I'm going to go through these really quickly for sake of time. But the first one, your present. Your present is a gift you give others. And most importantly, you give yourself by being fully present. When you are fully present, you step into the freedom of your convictions and you come across as someone who truly believes what you're saying, and you say it unapologetically and unashamed. Second, your passion. Your passion is your source for courage and strength that you draw from. So, despite your fears or uncertainty, your passion wants to make a positive difference for others. Third, your perspective. Your perspective is the positive thoughts you think about yourself and those around you. You do that best by checking your own assumptions and learning to find value in imperfect people, because we know and understand that no one is perfect, including ourselves. Fourth and final is your purpose. Your purpose is the reason you're doing something in the first place, and it's ultimately your desire or your desired outcome. How do you want to make people feel?
Yeah,
And I
this is
know
getting at your why, right?
this is yeah. And also it kind of gives you some characteristics about executive presence, what it looks like, and the source for accessing your own presence. With these 4 P's, you help make room for grace and humility in what you say and how you say it, so that you can show up in fully present, with purpose, with passion, and with a clear perspective. The people I most associate with having executive presence are some of the most humble people. And when they speak with such grace. And that alone tends to kind of pull you in. There's a great example of that for me. And she is Stacey Abrams. She's a great
Oh
example.
yeah.
If you don't know who she is, I encourage you to look her up and learn more about her, or get one of her books. But she's got a book called Lead from the Outside, or How to Lead from the Outside and Make Real Change. But here's what's so powerful about Stacey Abrams. She doesn't fit into the mold society regards as, quote, acceptable. She's a plus size brown girl who wears her natural hair. But the minute she opens up her mouth and speaks, within 5 minutes, you totally forget what she looks like, because you instantly become captivated by what she's saying. She is so brilliant. She's confident, and she's a very influential woman.
You said the word that I was thinking as soon as you said Stacey Abrams, and that's brilliant.
Yes, she is brilliant.
Brilliant in the sense, not only in the sense of what she has to offer, but just how educated and self-educated and self-aware she is.
She's
It's just,
awesome.
yeah, it's just, you're right. That's executive presence.
Yeah. That brings me to this point, what it is not. If I asked you to locate a picture out of Time magazine that represents executive presence without ever having heard them speak, what characteristics would cause you to select that particular photo?
What I immediately think of is someone that looks confident
Mm-hmm.
and someone who seems comfortable in what they're doing. You know, if you think of chess, the game, it's not the king, it's not the queen, it's not a rook. It doesn't have to be. It can be any of the pieces, and just in how their confidence, how they appear in the role, and not necessarily at the front of the room, or the center of attention.
Well, 9 times out of 10, people will make their selections based on appearance, status, and their beliefs about what they value as one to respect or even accept information from. So if you think about and a great example is Undercover Bosses. If you
Mm.
ever watched that show, nothing about them changed inside. They just altered their appearance to appear as someone else. They're still the same person, but because they changed their outward appearance, they no longer had what we call executive presence. With that in mind, if you think about our normal society, we're looking at who fits into the box of 95% of the executives in our organization. What do they look like? And so we're probably selecting them based on that litmus or rubric. I would like to interject that your external does not define your it. It is what you carry, what you believe. It is your passion, your perspective, and your purpose that drives you to be you. And so it's hard to sort of ascertain from a picture if this person has executive presence. And I think the example that I gave of Stacey Abrams is a great picture of that, because if you just picked up her book and you've never heard about her, or saw her on a picture of her online, or an image of her and you've never heard about her, you probably wouldn't pick her. That's why I wanted to kind of use that as an analogy to say what it is not.
Part 3, creating your narrative. If you've heard me talk about leadership, you probably have heard me say something like, anyone can lead from the perspective of the role. What goes with that belief is the assumption that you believe you can lead. If you don't believe that you can lead or practice leadership, then chances are you're going to have difficulty doing it. Like leadership, Vivian shares something fundamental to tapping into executive presence. Again, here's Vivian.
If someone is listening to this and they want to kind of be free from measuring themselves against any destructive patterns of self-destructive patterns of thinking, this is the point where they want to turn up the volume, kind of pull their ears in a little closer and hear what I'm going to say next. What you look like does not define your ability to have executive presence. How you make people feel and respond in a manner, in a positive manner, is what defines your ability to have executive presence. And you can personalize that and say, what I look like doesn't define my ability to have executive presence. How I make you feel and respond in a positive manner is what defines my ability to have executive presence.
Yeah, that reminds me of the adage that people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel.
Exactly. And I had that quote to say because Maya Angelou is the one that said it, but I took that out. And so I'm glad that you interjected that as well. So that's perfect. Well, I think it's important for people to understand, especially leaders today, to understand and to develop their own executive presence as a leader. Because understanding your executive presence gives you the ability to nurture that special thing inside you to influence and inspire others, regardless of your past failures, where you came from, or even what others may think is not possible for you. I believe this is very important because everyone has the ability to inspire. I believe everyone has a purpose in this world, but if they don't believe this, they won't have the courage to share it. And anything is possible when you believe in doing great things. There's a proverb that says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And Gandhi says it this way: a man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. This is powerful because it means you attract what you believe to be true in your mind. It also means that you have the power to change and influence change simply by how you think. So why not think of yourself as having something special, or, quote, having that it?
Part 4, developing executive presence. There are things that you can do to develop your executive presence, and Vivian has about 4 of them to share with you. Here's Vivian.
There's a LinkedIn learning course called Executive Presence. The person who put that course together did an excellent job. I highly recommend it. Secondly, visualize the person that immediately comes to mind when you think about executive presence based on some of the characteristics we talked about. Get inspired by them. Perhaps even print out a picture of them and use it to mentally prepare yourself before speaking to a group of people. And then third, take some time and capture your purpose, your passion, your perspective. Never go into another meeting, do another presentation, or speak with your team without first centering yourself around these 3 Ps.
And that becomes your guiding principles to help you present yourself in these meetings and interactions.
Absolutely. And then fourth and finally, and most important, is develop a statement that you tell yourself. in order to prepare your thinking patterns so that you can show up and be fully present with your purpose, passion, and a clear perspective. And this will help you change the narrative in your mind. So for me, that narrative was people don't want to hear what I have to say. So I changed that narrative by telling myself I have valuable information that people need and want to hear. To prepare myself for this podcast, I said this out loud to myself over and over again. I truly love people. The people who listen to this podcast are some of the best people in my life. They are as important to me as my family or best friend. The only reason I am speaking is to give value and change lives for the better. I will enjoy every second of speaking and make it like it is my last one.
That's powerful.
So here's some final thoughts that I have. What others believe has nothing to do with you. What is more important is what you believe about yourself. Give yourself permission to heal your mind with a better vision of yourself as being exactly what others need to make things better. Focus on your purpose, prepare yourself to be fully present, and be the present others need and you need to fully change the world, change your team, and change yourself.
My thanks to Vivian Johnson. If you'd like to learn more about Vivian, go to the show notes for some links. And if you have any comments or questions, go to unlabelleadership.com, click the message icon, and you can leave a message for up to 1 minute. Thank you to those who support the show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, lead on.